You guys asked for it. You guys voted for it. It's now time for a Jim Carrey tier list. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm going through Jim Carrey's filmography. We're going to do a tier list. He has 31 films that he had a major role in or whatever. I'm not doing any TV movies. I'm not doing any small roles, cameos, or anything like that. So just his main films, starting with Once Bitten from 1985. And we're going to make all the way to Sonic 3. This is going to be split into two videos because there's 31 films, and it'll just be easier for me. So in this video, we'll be doing his early days from 1985 to 2003 to Bruce Almighty. This should be interesting, and yeah, let's not waste any more time. So kicking things off with his first movie, Once Bitten from 1985, his first theatrical release where he had a major role. And yeah, this one was a lot of fun. First time watch for me. It's a vampire movie with Jim Carrey from the 80s. So why wouldn't I want to check this out? It was always on my watch list, and I finally got to watch it. And it's fun. Silly, cheesy as hell, but still pretty fun. It's about this vampire, this countess who's really old, but she still looks young because every Halloween she turns a young virgin into a vampire. She sucks their blood and it keeps her young. And this year she has to do it again, and she runs upon Jim Carrey's character, who's a virgin, and she tries to get him, right? At the same time, he has a girlfriend, so they're both kind of trying to tear him to one side and to the other. There's a lot of humor in there. Jim Carrey slowly turning into a vampire too throughout the film, which is kind of funny. He started to dress all in black and everything. And yeah, there's this, it's cheesy, but it's fun. There's a whole dance-off scene that's really, really entertaining at the college dance or whatever. They're like, the vampire and his girlfriend are both trying to take him to dance, and it's just really, really fun. So this one, it has an awesome soundtrack too. They had their own like theme song for Once Bitten. They got their own track, which is awesome. So I had a lot of fun with this one. It's not high-end cinema or anything. I think for this list, I'll put it in C, just because Jim Carrey has so many great films, and I don't want to bog all up at the top. And this one, like I said, has its cheesy moments in that, but it's still worth a watch if you haven't checked it out. Up next, we got Earth Girls Are Easy. I watched this one for the first time about a year ago. I never rewatched it for this video. I felt like I didn't have to. It's a pretty dumb movie, but it's a fun one. Once again, it's a popcorn flick. There's like musical numbers in here. It's really wacky. It's about these aliens crash landing their spaceship into a swimming pool of this girl. Very weird, very, like I said, dumb, but there's some fun to be had. The three aliens are Jeff Goldblum, he's the main one, and Jim Carrey and Damon Wayans are the other two. And they're all like these hairy, like furries. Like one's all red, one's all blue, and this long hair. And but once they shave them down, they're just regular people, right? Handsome young men, which is funny. And they go in the dating scene in LA and everything. A lot of fun to be had with that. Them at the clubs and everything. And the main girl here is Geena Davis, played by Geena Davis. And she kind of falls for Jeff Goldblum's alien character. She's having a rough relationship with her boyfriend at the moment on Earth. So she ends up kind of hooking up with him. Like I said, it's a super silly movie, like a spaceship in her swimming pool, just like floating there, and it's like super plasticky and that. So even more cheesy than Once Bitten, and with the musical numbers and everything, it's just a really wacky movie. I still had fun with it, but it's not necessarily a good movie. I'll put this one in D, again, just kind of for the sake of this list, so it's not super top heavy, because we're going to get into the classics here in just a second. Moving on to Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Now, this is insane. He came out with Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all the same year, 1994. His blowout year, that's for sure. His big, his name got put out there, that's for sure, you know, with these three films. And starting with Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, I'm not going to go too much into detail in these films because I've already ranked the Ace Ventura movie. So if you want more detail, go check out my ranking. But I really enjoy Pet Detective, you know. Jim Carrey plays this really quirky character in Ace with all of his mannerisms, and just he's just very weird, but he's still smart, you know, he's not dumb. So he just makes for a really interesting character, and him paired with Courtney Cox, she does a great job at this as a supporting role here. And yeah, just so many funny scenes with him, putting on the tutu when he's pretending to be like a mental patient and doing like slow mo and talking out of his ass. And there is countless scenes in this film that are hilarious. It's pretty consistent too. Like every scene has something. So I think it's a great film. Does it deserve to go into S tier? The performance is S tier, but I think the movie's A tier, to be fair. Yeah, Jim Carrey is amazing as Ace Ventura. No one else would ever be able to pull this off like he did. So it's an A tier film. Moving on to the next film from 1994 is The Mask. And this one outdoes Ace Ventura, in my opinion. I always loved The Mask. It was a childhood favorite of mine. Takes this guy Stanley Ipkiss. That's who Jim Carrey plays. I always remember that name. Such a odd name, Ipkiss. He works at a bank, and inside he wants to be a lover and all these things, but in reality he's very shy, he's a pushover, all these sorts of things. But when he finds this mask, which I never knew had the soul of Loki trapped in, or whatever, the god of mischief, that was interesting. I never picked that up as a kid, but rewatching it here I did, which makes a lot of sense, because when Stanley Ipkiss puts on this mask, he does cause a lot of trouble, a lot of mischief. But you really get to see his inner shell come out. He's like a horn dog. He's wacky. A lot of he's right into watching cartoons, so that kind of plays a big part in it too. He's very animated when he becomes the mask, and there's just so many hilarious scenes. Him getting back at all the people who screwed him over. He ends up robbing a bank and everything too, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, the Tommy gun scene in the back alley, to him making all the cops dance and do like the salsa or whatever, is just so hilarious. He's a larger than life character, and I just love it. And when the mask gets to go on his dog, it's hilarious as well. And the bad guy too. You really get to see how it changes everybody, right? And this is calls for a franchise, even though they attempted to make a sequel, which was garbage. But it's just such a juicy concept how this mask gives you everything you ever wanted, and unleashes your inner self, basically. And they're basically unstoppable. As long as they keep the mask on, they can't die. So really, like a superhero here, they'd be like one of the strongest. So The Mask is just so good, so well written. It's actually a movie that gets better as it goes along with the story, and the ending is just fantastic. So The Mask is an S tier film if I've ever seen one. Oh, and of course, Cameron Diaz is in this film, her first role ever, and she had a great career after this as well. She's smoking hot in here. Of course, that whole scene where she's doing her whole song and dance and everything on stage, and the mask is like going crazy over her, and then they both do this awesome dance up on stage. Love it, love it, love it. So yeah, The Mask deserves S tier for me. Up next, we got Dumb and Dumber, the last movie from 1994, and another hit on their hands. Oh my god. Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey had so much chemistry in this film. They were brilliant. Even though the movie's called Dumb and Dumber, they're definitely dumb characters, but the writing in here is just so funny. It's the situations they get themselves into, and they don't realize what's going on half the time, or their surroundings. They're terrible at social interactions, and they're just really dumb. Like, always getting robbed, and the worst things happen to them because of their own stupidity. And to me, it is just hilarious. Whether we're talking about like the bus of girls in bikinis going by and stopping and asking for if they could be their like oil guys, and they're like, in the next town, I'm sure you'll find them. And like, they're so dumb that they could have been those guys. Or rather, they're both after the same woman in this film. And there's just so many countless funny scenes from start to finish. And it's another movie I find that just keeps getting funnier as the movie goes along. I always love the scene, and I quote it all the time, that what's the chances of a guy like me and a girl like you, getting together? And the girl says, not very good. And he goes like 1 in 100, and she goes more like 1 in a million. And he's like, so you're saying there's a chance? Jim Carrey is so funny in here. I quote that all the time. So Dumb and Dumber, it's definitely an S tier film for me. It's even better than The Mask. It's one of his best films ever made. Like I said, the chemistry between Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey was flawless. All the supporting cast is great as well. And just like their looks, like Jim Carrey having a tooth chipped out and a bowl haircut. It's just ridiculous, but so much fun. So Dumb and Dumber is S tier for me all day. Up next, we got Batman Forever, where Carrey plays the Riddler. Not the only villain in this film, we also got Two-Face with Tommy Lee Jones. And this is a difficult film. I'm sure there's a better cut of this movie out there. I know there is other cuts of it that we never got to see, because this one feels messy in its story. But at the same time, I think the casting is great. Val Kilmer is a great Batman. I love his suit. It's one of the best suits in the franchise. Rip Val Kilmer, by the way. He just passed. And he's not the problem in this movie. Neither are the rest of the cast. Nicole Kidman's great as this like police psychologist. Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Everybody's pretty great. I'm not a big fan of the dude who plays Robin. I can't remember his name, but he always kind of bothered me, but everybody else is great in this film. There's some great set pieces in here. I like the neon colors on everything. But again, the story's kind of a mess at times. It's jumbled. It doesn't feel like there's good pacing throughout. I think that they're dealing with too many characters here, and that also affects the pacing and the flow of the film. What else? There's problems with bad CGI in here. Like sometimes they show the buildings as regular buildings, which look great, and other times it's fake and it looks terrible. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me, but I do watch it enough as a Batman fan, so I couldn't put it in D tier myself. It's gonna go in the low C, but it's really in between C and D for me. It's a little too goofy for me at times, but at least it doesn't go as bad as Schumacher's Batman and Robin film. That's just too much for me. This one is riding that fine line. So yeah, it's okay. I get some fun out of it, but it's not the best movie ever made or anything. It's not the best Batman movie ever made, but it's decent. It does feel a lot like the cartoons in a way, like the Sunday morning Batman cartoons. So it's going in C tier for me. Up next, we got Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Again, like I said, I ranked these movies, so I'm not going to go too much in detail. I think it's not as strong as a film as the original, especially within the story and whatnot. And they repeat a couple of the same jokes and stuff, so it's not as fresh as the first movie. But when you change the setting to like Africa or wherever they are, it spices things up with these more exotic animals. There is scenes that are definitely more funny in this than the original, even though the movie itself is less consistent. We got the whole rhino birthing scene, which is one of the funniest scenes ever. Like, I love that scene so much. It cracks me up every time I watch it. And again, another movie where it feels like it just keeps getting more funny as the movie goes on. Him running in the jungle and getting hit by darts and slowly getting woozy. It's just so funny to me. So while I get it if you put this in B tier, to me this rivals the original. Like I said, maybe not as good as a critic when you're thinking like that as a reviewer, but I have just as much fun with both these movies. So I give Pet Detective the edge, but they're both A tier for me. They're both hilarious. All right, so up next we got The Cable Guy, and a movie I always wanted to love more than I actually do. There's a good concept here where, you know, you got this cable guy who you find out doesn't even work for the cable company no more. He's just pretending, and he's more of a stalker, and he wants a friend, basically. He grew up on television. He didn't have the proper parenting and whatnot. He has a lisp from getting beat as a kid, and it's just very interesting character. I'll give them that Jim Carrey plays, but the story itself, it's kind of just a lot of stalking, a lot of this character being annoying towards our main lead, who's played by Matthew Broderick, and there's some fun scenes. I like the whole medieval diner restaurant scene where they actually have to fight like medieval warriors. That's pretty funny, and yeah, the cable guy puts the meat on his face and acts like Hannibal Lecter. I like when he's referenced in movies because as a movie fan, that's fun, you know, little Easter eggs there. But when it comes time to be like a thriller in the second half of the movie, I feel like that's where the movie kind of fails a bit. It doesn't really know how to be a thriller. I feel like the first half of this movie is perfect. It's directed by Ben Stiller, by the way. The second half, if he would have let like Quentin Tarantino direct the end of this film, I think it would have been really thrilling, really cool. They're kind of going still more into the comedy side of things with this film instead of the thrills, which wasn't a great idea because it's not all that funny, I feel. So the cable guy, it's tough. I feel like the character's sympathetic. Like, you still feel for the character even though he's crazy and a stalker and everything. So they do a good job in that regard. I just feel like they could have made the thrills a bit better in the final act. You know, where he ties up the girl and they're at the satellite and everything. He does that GoldenEye reference, which is funny. But yeah, they don't do enough of that in the end. I felt like they should have went crazier. So, still a decent film. I'll put it ahead of Batman, actually. It's in C tier for me. It's close to D because I felt like it could have been written better. Ben Stiller probably wasn't the best guy for this. I don't know if he wrote it. I know he directed it. And he put himself as a character on TV. It's very weird, but yeah, it's relatable because he's such into TV and movies, but at the same time, he's a complete psycho. So that's where he's not relatable anymore. So yeah, Cable Guy C tier. It's an okay film. Not one I watch all that often, though. Up next, we got the movie Liar Liar. Now, this movie is about Jim Carrey playing a lawyer who cannot lie for 24 hours, and he's in a big court case, which is nearly impossible for a lawyer. There's a reason why lawyer sounds like liar, right? Yeah, this kid makes a birthday wish, and it ended up coming true. And it's just, you don't realize how much Jim Carrey's character has to lie throughout the day until he makes this wish happens to him, and he can't lie. And it's just one thing after another. He can't tell people lies to their face. So if they say, "Do I look good today?" he has to tell them what he really thinks. And makes for so many hilarious scenes. One in particular is when he's in an elevator with this big breasted woman and he can't stop talking about them. It's so funny. He's like, I mean, I want to squeeze him. I mean, it's just so funny, man. And of course, the court case itself is super interesting. How is he going to win this case without being able to lie? When clearly his client, played by Jennifer Tilly, which is always awesome to see her outside of Chucky, you know, she's obviously not in the right here. So, yeah, it just makes for a really funny film. And, you know, the claw, how he does that to his kid. I remember my dad used to do that to me all the time, too, back when we watched this movie when it came out. I used to hate that. He used to squeeze my stomach and stuff. So, yeah, Liar Liar, a really solid film. I think another A film, if I'm being honest with you, because there's just so many funny scenes. And Jim Carrey, when he's trying to hold back what he what he really wants to say, just doing all the faces and everything, he's so damn good at that. When he spits out the water, he's like, "Come on." And yeah, just the way that he actually does get to solve this case in a truthful matter is just really interesting and cool. Comedies and courtroom cases kind of go hand in hand. Look, Liar Liar, My Cousin Vinny, Legally Blonde, I mean, it works. So, and this is no different. So I really enjoy Liar Liar. Ooh, up next, we got The Truman Show. His first like real serious role, I feel. Not a comedy, right? There's some comedy moments in here, but it's more of a serious film, The Truman Show, and I absolutely love this film. I think it's completely brilliant. Just having this guy living his whole life on a reality TV show and he doesn't even know it. He's the star. And it just, after watching this movie throughout the years, it always gets me thinking like about your own life. Like, am I being watched? Am I being filmed? Is this all fake? It's really thought provoking in that way. And you know how they keep slipping up, like lights start falling from the ceiling, or like, you know, just little mess ups with the actors around him, and he starts to pick up on these little things. How there's like advertisements going on around him, like his wife's like trying to sell the cocoa while she's trying to give it to him. It's just so interesting and way ahead of its time. I mean, this is before reality TV was a thing. This is before we get ads on everything. Like, you know, like look at YouTube nowadays. You got like 5 ads for one video. I don't know how many you guys have for this video. But yeah, it's just so ahead of its time. Jim Carrey does a great job at this serious role. The Cable Guy, he was sympathetic, but this time he really is truly sympathetic throughout the entire runtime. You really feel for him. He even gets emotional at times where he goes in the boat and just tries escaping, and the creator tries to make thunderstorms and everything to make him die, basically, capsize. Tough stuff. Gets emotional. And just a really heartfelt ending when he opens that door, you know? The Truman Show, it's just larger than life. It's just so good. It's one of his best movies ever made. It's an S tier film, if he ever did an S tier film. Like I said, this is before reality TV. They basically probably created it out of this film. And how like the studios in the moon and everything, it's just so brilliant to me. Anyway, it's just love this movie. I always have, always will, and I'll definitely be returning to this movie over and over again. Genius. Now we got Man on the Moon. Interesting film for sure. It's like a biopic. Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman in his life. I wasn't super familiar with Andy Kaufman going into this. I knew he was on Taxi and did some Saturday Night Live stuff, but I didn't know anything that this movie showed me. Like, wow, how the movie starts off in the first half hour or so. I wasn't into it. I was like, this guy's just an asshole. Why would anybody like this guy or respect this guy? But as the movie goes along, you kind of understand Andy Kaufman a little bit more. He is a very interesting person, very unique individual where no one else was like him. He wasn't a comedian, he was an entertainer according to him. You know, it didn't matter if people were mad, happy, sad, as long as he emoted emotions and he got people going. That's all he cared about. You know, him wrestling women to, calling out people on talk shows and everything. It's just like one of a kind. No one else has ever done this, and definitely made for an interesting film. And one thing about biopics, when they get it right, the viewer usually goes and wants to learn more about this character, more about this person, and do research on them. And that's exactly what this movie did for me. So while I think the story isn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, especially for a biopic, the performance is S tier all day. Jim Carrey is Andy Kaufman in this film. If you see side by side comparisons on YouTube of him and Andy Kaufman, it's basically identical. So he couldn't have done a better job if you asked him to. So yeah, the movie, while the story isn't great, the performances are insane. You got Danny DeVito as a supporting role in here. He's his like manager or agent or whatever. He's really great in here too. So the performances are great. The story is okay, but since this is real life and this is very close to what happened in real life, it just makes it all that more interesting. So Man on the Moon, and of course all the behind the scenes stuff with Jim Carrey, how he went method acting with this role and he became Andy Kaufman. He wouldn't go by Jim or nothing for like a year. So people must have been going crazy on set because that's never fun. But yeah, I don't know. It started off as a D, then a C. I'm thinking I'm going to give this a B. I think that's fair. While it's not something I'm going to run out to watch again in the future, it was a decent flick, and I think the performances really sell this movie. And I got a new appreciation for Andy Kaufman, so that's really cool. So I think it's deserves to be in B tier at least. Some people may say it's better, that's fine, but for me, it's going in the B. Oh boy, we got Me, Myself, and Irene next. Another film I grew up on. I remember renting this and watching it by myself the first time I watched it as a kid. When is this, like 2000 around that time, 99? So I was pretty young at the time, and I thought this was so funny. It still is too. On rewatch, a lot of things I forgot about. It's about this guy who ends up with a split personality after going through a bunch of trauma and always letting things build up inside of him, and eventually he just snaps and creates this alter ego who is this like asshole who's mean and everything, and it's completely different from the real life version of him, right? Because he gets split basically. So yeah, very interesting concept. Definitely something perfect for Jim Carrey, to pull off. Yeah, it's just every time he switches from one side to the other, from Charlie to Hank, I believe his names are. Like when he's Hank, when he's the mean one, he's like yelling at kids and calling them up, calling them down, wanting to fight them and stuff, and just a lot of hilarious scenes when he's mean. Like he says, we're going to get supplies and go to a cabin. And then when they check the supplies, it's like rope, a shovel, and ground, a dildo, and a bottle of Bacardi. It's like the most random shit ever. A lot of funny scenes in here. All of his trauma started because he married this woman. She had an affair with him, with this black midget, and she doesn't tell him. And so he raises those kids as his own. His wife leads him with that black midget, or black small person, I should say, to be politically correct. And yeah, it's so funny. His three kids grew up to be huge, and they're so smart, but they're throwing in motherfucker like every 2 seconds, and it's so damn funny. Man, it's funny. And Jim Carrey being like this skinny white guy as the father, and they're calling him daddy and kissing him on the cheek and that. Hilarious. Definitely a movie that would probably be super offensive nowadays, like a lot of his movies on this list, like Ace Ventura, but I don't know, it's a product of his time, and it is just so funny. Now, it's not his best movie. It does have really funny moments, but I feel like the story is a little too long. It's like 2 hours long. Could have been cut down some. little messy storyline, like I said, and the ending feels very rushed. Like, he's supposed to be scared of water or whatever, but we don't learn that till the very end. And then his sons rescue him with a helicopter like that. I felt like it could have been drawn out a little bit more, that final act, and tighten up the rest of the movie, but still a hilarious film, man, nonetheless. So many funny things in here, especially when they're at that motel and he wakes up and he's like, did we have sex last night? And he realizes his alter ego did, and so funny, the dildos there. This is a B tier movie all day, every day. And B tier is very good, just to let you know. It's like basically like an 8 out of 10 on here, so just for reference. Up next, we got the Christmas classic, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So many millennials are in love with this movie, and understandable. I mean, it was really big when it came out. I remember we were watching it on TV all the time. They were playing this in the schools and everything. It was such a big movie. And to me, this is my favorite Grinch film. Jim Carrey, once again, just made this character his own with his facial expressions, and just the makeup they had to put onto him must have been insane to do. But yeah, he definitely became the Grinch in here. It's one thing Jim Carrey's good at, becoming these characters and owning them, right? Whether we're talking about Stanley Ipkiss, Ace Ventura, Andy Kaufman, he is the Grinch in this movie. And yeah, it's still heartfelt. It's still got a great Christmas message, the Grinch trying to destroy Christmas, but all he needed was some love. He has a heart too, even though it's really small. And yeah, all the cast is great in here. You got little Cindy Who. She's great. She became the singer of Pretty Reckless, which is pretty crazy to think how much times have changed, right? She's just this little girl in this film. But yeah, I always loved this movie. One of Ron Howard's best movies, actually. Funny that he directed this, but yeah, it captures the spirit of the Grinch while being more modern and putting that Jim Carrey humor on top, which has absolutely worked. All the scenes with him doing slapstick humor, or like yelling off the cliff like, you're an idiot, and come back, you're an idiot, like just different things like that, or telling it to shut up. And him and his dog, I think Max, love the Grinch. So well, I'm not like a uber fan. I'm not one who has to play this every Christmas. It's usually every like 2 years or so for me. I know a lot of people who has to watch this. Not quite the case for me. Again, it's an S tier performance, but I'm going to put it under A. I'm going to put it right around here in A tier. I get it if it's S tier for you. It's close for me. But yeah, it's up there. And for a Christmas movie, this is one of the better ones, I'm always a Home Alone guy myself, but this one is close. It's very close. Up next, we have The Majestic. The only movie on this list I never even heard before. The third movie on this list that was a first-time watch, and let me tell you, was not a fan at all. Directed by the guy who made Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. So I thought, wow, this could be a really amazing film. Wasn't for me. There are moments in it that I enjoy. It's about this, it's a really crazy story. I like the first part of the story. It's this writer who gets blacklisted from Hollywood for being suspected of being a communist. And then he ends up getting into an accident and ends up in the river with his car. He gets washed up into the next town and ends up with amnesia, so he doesn't remember anything. What gets weird is there's a guy in this town that believes he is his son that went to the war and never came back. So the whole town believes it's this guy, and anyway, it gets really crazy. They have a parade for him and everything, basically, and it really brings this town together. This is what this town needed. But then, of course, they find out he is just an imposter. This is not the real guy, but he doesn't realize it either. He has amnesia. And the FBI's after him because they still suspect him being a communist. And it's a really long, messy story. 2.5 hours long, and it drags, man. A complete snooze fest for me. Like I said, there's moments I enjoy. Like how they're trying to fix up this old theater. Him and his dad. Not really his dad, but his dad believes it's his son. And the theater's called the Majestic, and it's this old theater. This takes place in the 50s, right? So they fix up their old theater like old, just like it used to be, like the old ways. And it brings this town together, basically. And then the town kind of falls apart for a little bit once they figure out who he really is. And the whole last part of this movie ends up a court case drama over him being a communist or not. So It's just a really messy storyline once again. It's long, it's drawn out. Like I said, it's like a snooze fest. Hardest movie to get through. Even Jim Carrey, I mean, he's good in the role, but I feel like he doesn't, like, anybody could have done this role and it would have worked the same because he had amnesia, so he doesn't really get to have much of a character, right? He doesn't even know who he really is. So, unfortunately, I know this film has its fans, but it is going in F tier for me. It just was not good. It's not something I'd ever watch again. I'm not super into drama, romance films, and that's definitely what this one is. And yeah, it just drags out way too long, especially in the middle act where there's not a lot happening. Cool to see Martin Landau in here. I mean, I just rewatched the Pinocchio movie from the 90s, live action Pinocchio movie with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and he's Geppetto in it. So that's kind of cool to see him right after watching that. But not a movie I'd ever rewatch. I get it if you enjoy this movie. I can kind of respect it, but it's just not for me. And lastly, for today, we're going to do Bruce Almighty from 2003. And yeah, I always enjoyed this film. Really fun movie. It's, yeah, Jim Carrey gets the powers of God because he feels like his life sucks. God doesn't listen to him, doesn't listen to his prayers. He feels like he's being ignored. So God hands him all of his powers for a week and says, have at it. I like to see you do my job. And God's played by Morgan Freeman, which is really funny. It really works, though. Like, you wouldn't think, but he plays the perfect God in here. We get, obviously, Jim Carrey as Bruce. And yeah, once he gets his powers, it's just so fun. Like lifting women's skirts and making monkeys come out of gangsters' assholes. Like, one of the best parts is when he's in the newsroom because he's an anchor, and Evan, who's played by Steve Carell, he's there being an anchor on the news, and Jim Carrey's making his mouth move really quick and making him say really dumb things. And that's probably my favorite part of the movie. It's just so good. But yeah, it's a heartfelt film. It's funny. It's a little bit of everything. Bruce Almighty. It kind of checks all the boxes. And yeah, I just always enjoyed this. Jennifer Aniston plays his wife. Can't believe he's ignoring her in that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Who would do that to Jennifer Aniston? But yeah, I always enjoyed this movie. And how he screws up the world. How he moves the moon closer to be more romantic. But he doesn't realize that affects the tides and creates tsunamis in like Taiwan and everything. Very interesting movie, and by the end it becomes almost like Apocalypse before he turns things around. So I always enjoy Bruce Almighty. Great flick. A tier, B tier is somewhere in there. Wait a minute, on second thought, I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's actually just slightly above Liar Liar. They're pretty close. I'd say they're tied. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. So there's the first 15 movies of Jim Carrey where he plays a major role. I will be back with the 16 other movies, starting with, I think, what is it? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And we're going to work our way all the way to Sonic 3. That'll be out within the next week or so. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know, do you want me to put those movies on top of these or make a separate list and then at the end put them all together? Let me know in the comments section. Let me know how you rank these first half of Jim Carrey's filmography. How do you rank these films? Whether you want to do a tier list or just tell me what's your favorite, your least favorite, let me know down in the comment section. A lot of the heavy hitters in his early career, that's why the S and A tiers are, more filled out. But I'm sure once we get to the second half here, I'll fill the bottom a lot more. So who knows? But stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe so you don't miss out. And that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, thanks for watching.